Hi students, today we're going to go over the materials list for your class. And so I just want to give you a brief overview on everything that is listed. If you get the art kit, most of these supplies should come in your kit with a few exceptions. So you have the option, if you've already done some art and you have some of these, you could buy just what you need either through Michael's, Dick Blick, Amazon, or through our student bookstore. You also can go and buy the full kit for the class. But let's go ahead and work our way through and just go over each of these. And so let's start off with the paper that you're going to need. So you're going to want to start off with a newsprint pad, and you want to make sure that it is the rough surface, okay, not the smooth. If you get the smooth, then your charcoal isn't going to stick. But newsprint is a really inexpensive kind of newspaper type of surface. And so when you use any sort of charcoal on it, the rough surface is what is going to grab your charcoal, and it's going to give you a really nice soft effect, right? And so you can see where it's grabbing. It's going to be, this is not archival, so we use this for sketches, and it's really our inexpensive pad of paper, but it works the best for charcoal. Okay. You're also going to need just a large 18 by 24 inch pad of white drawing paper, and that's what I have here. And then when we get into the other materials, I'll go over the other papers that are on the list later on in the semester. So you want to start off, we have our pencils. We have charcoal, conte, our sharpening and sanding tools, our pen and ink, our blending materials, erasers, and a siding stick. So let's talk about the pencils first. Pencils are going to come numbered, and so this is an 8H pencil. If we were to draw a number line, we can use our siding stick here to help give us a nice even line. I don't know if you can see that because this is an H, but if you think about it as having two ends on the line, so right in the middle is going to be our HB, and then on the right hand side we have our B, and on the left hand side we have our H, right? And so as you go in this direction, your pencil lead will get lighter. As you move your way up, it's going to get darker. So if you had a 2H, a 4H, and a 6H lead, your 2H is going to be darker than your 4H. 4H will be darker than your 6H. But these are going to be harder pencils. They have less oil in them, so they are more for like perspective lines or any sort of architecture or graphic kind of mark. And then if we get into here, we have our HB, and then we would have our 2B, 4B, and 6B, okay? So we can play around with that. Here is my 8H, and this is a really hard lead. Here's a 5H in comparison. You can see it's going to be a little bit darker. It's going to blend better than the 8H did. And then if we go right into our HB. So this is a leadless pencil. Whichever brand pencils you want to have, this is woodless, excuse me. So it's just solid lead. And this is going to be our HB. A much darker lead than the previous two. It's kind of like your standard number 2 pencil, but you are able to get much darker here. And it's going to blend easier. A 2B. Now it starts to get nice and smooth. These are the pencils you want to use for values and shading and modeling a form. 4B. And then let's get into our 8B. So let's take a look at the charcoal now. Charcoal, let's try that out on the newsprint. So we have 3 basic types of charcoal that we're going to be using in this class. We have our general's charcoal, and so this is a medium. And so this will give you the ability to have, hopefully that happens, but hopefully it doesn't happen when you're using it. But you're able to get a nice line that way, or you would be able to take the lead and also shade with it too, right? So this is actually a good opportunity to show you how to sharpen the pencil. You would take any sort of razor blade, and the goal sharpening is that you're going to expose as much lead as possible. So you're going to whittle away the wood casing, and you know, as you get the hang of this, it's going to take a little bit, but you will sometimes break the lead, like I just broke in the demo. And it's actually good that it happens, so you can see that it's pretty common. And then I'm going to lightly get rid of all that wood and glue off of the actual charcoal lead itself. You want to make sure not to drop these, because if you drop them, you can just end up cracking the lead all the way through. And each time you sharpen it, it will just break, and that's really frustrating. So you want to keep these in a case and keep them safe. And so you have the options. This is a sanding pad just from Home Depot. Example of one that is cracked. So at some point this pen was dropped and the lead is going to be cracked all the way through. Alright, so sanding pad. They also sell them at the art stores. You can make your own. Like when these run out, I just buy some sanding sheets from Home Depot inexpensively and staple them back on and use it again that way. But these are nice because you can just wash them off in the sink. So you want to turn and rotate your lead as you sharpen it. Until you start to get a fine point. And so having this amount of lead exposed allows you to have a nice sharp point for fine lines and details like a contour line, but it also allows you to use the edge for shading. And you can get some nice even tones and cover ground quickly. Then if you only had this much and you were trying to shade it, it's harder to get blended strokes if you're only used the point. So this gives you a lot of versatility to correctly sharpen your charcoal in this way. All right. So a medium lead here. We also have our vine charcoal. This is a willow and it is soft. And so it's going to come in a pack. This is literally like grapevine that has been charred until it's fully turned into charcoal. You would break off a tip, usually about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, and then you can use the side of this to shade things very quickly. We can also use it to do some gesture lines. And so the thing about this vine charcoal, it's really soft, and it's easy to smudge, and it is pretty easy to erase. It's harder to get it completely clean, but you can erase with it. All right, so we've gone over our sharpening. Our third type of charcoal is compressed charcoal. This is going to be the darkest charcoal. We use this for toning our page. It comes in large sticks, and it has a lot more oil in it, which means it's going to be more difficult to erase, but you can go very dark with it, pitch black. much darker than you can ever get with the vine. So once you start using the charcoal, it's good to start off with drawing with the charcoal here, or with the vine charcoal, and building up your values, and then going in at the end with your compressed charcoal to get your darkest darks, or going back in because this will also give you a dark. So the way that you can blend this is with a chamois. This is just a soft piece of like suede leather, and you can use a circular motion, and this will blend your tones. And so you can also lighten and pull some of it off this way. So this is nice and handy. You can wash it in the sink. It never goes bad. We also have what is called a stump, or also known as a tortilla. They come in different sizes, but really it's just rolled paper. You can also sharpen it and clean it with the sanding paper. So this can go in and give you some really good edge control on blending. But what happens with this compared to the chamois is sometimes you get the directional lines, okay? But this is a blending tool, so if this gets dirty, I can go in and use a sanding paper and clean it off again. All right. Erasers. Let's get this microphone cord out of the way here. So we have a white vinyl eraser. This is going to give you the hardest, cleanest line erasing. Or we have our kneaded eraser. This is what it looks like in your kit. If you open it up, this is a kneadable eraser, meaning once it gets dirty, you just knead it up and get it clean again. And you can use this for a variety of ways, but you can do a press and pull, and it will lightly pull the value and lighten it. You can go in and erase as normal, but it's not going to give you as clean a line as the vinyl one does. But you can shape it if you need to get in and do some detail work as well. Okay. Really nice. You can also try, this is a white vinyl eraser that comes in this casing, allowing you to push it on through as you use up your eraser. And this gives you just a little bit more control in the wrist. And so, there you go. All right. Okay. So we've talked about our newsprint, our paper. Let's talk about our conte. So we will use this later on in the semester, and we're going to use this in conjunction with the pastel paper once we get into value. I will give this to you in class, or we will have a pickup day if this is an online class for you, where you can get supplies. I recommend the Canson Mi Tientes pastel paper. And so it comes in a kit with multiple colors. This is great for charcoal work or conte work. And so conte is kind of a sister to charcoal. It comes in many different colors. Conte is a brand. But it has less oil in it, so it's kind of a harder lead. So here's a sheet of that Canson paper, and if you look at it, it has two sides. It has a smooth side and it has a rougher side. And you can feel it, but you can also check that out by using your conte. And so the nice thing is this gives you a mid-tone paper. So you can use your black and your white. You could go in and eliminate the tooth by blending. But you want to use that rough side usually. But these give you a lot of control for different techniques. So a really nice paper, expensive, good quality, and we can provide that for you in class usually. So we have the conte sticks. Let's talk about ink pens now. So you're also going to be using pen quite frequently. We start off with contour line and the use of our pigment liner pens. And there's multiple brands. So this is a Staedtler case with a pigment liner. I have a selection of them in here, but they're going to come in different sizes. 1, 3, 5, and 7. And so they get successively bigger in terms of the nib. And so this is a much thicker nib in the 07 than in the 05, if you look at them side by side. And in terms of the kind of line they're going to make. Versus an 07. Okay. And as you get into the even thinner, the 03 is going to be probably the one we use the most. And so we're going to use these for any type of contour line drawing, which you can think of kind of as outline. We're going to use it for hatching and cross hatching. And then we're also going to use it for stippling, which is creating value through dots that vary in their closeness to each other. And so the nice thing about these pens is that you can't erase them. And this really gets you to focus on the quality of your line work and committing to a thin line. What often students will do is with a pencil, they're kind of searching for the line in what I call chicken scratch. No, we don't want that. I want you guys to use the pen to realize that you can get from point A to point B through one continuous line, and that the quality of that continuous line is going to look better than this kind of scratchy searching line, right? So Micron or Staedtler, whichever brand you want, but you're going to want a selection of these various sizes. And so during in our equity cabinet, we have access to watercolor paper or our printmaking paper. And so these handle water really well. The Micron pens are permanent, but we also have a tombow pen, and this is water soluble. So it has two tips. We have, the nib end, and this is a thicker tip than you're going to get from those pigment liners, and the other end has a brush tip. And so with a brush tip, you can vary your line weight based on the pressure and the way you curve it. And so the nice thing about these tombow pens, and they come in a variety of colors, but we're only using black for this semester, is since they're water soluble, you could take a jar of water, you could take a watercolor brush, and you can use them to create a watercolor effect, and they will bleed out and allow you to create value washes. And so when we get into our negative space assignments or any sort of value studies, this is where this is really nice. And so you want to make sure then that you're using a water soluble paper, either a watercolor that is at least above a 90-pound weight. And so whatever I have listed or that I give you in class should be fine. But if you were to do that on this regular drawing paper, this paper will bleed and buckle. You can still do it, but you're going to have better results and better control. And it's going to bleed better. See how it's not really moving within this paper? Whereas with the paper, with the rag content that is made to handle water, you're going to get a much nicer flow and application. Okay, so different papers will give you different results. For those of you who want, you can also buy India ink. I give this out in class. In the online classes, I'm not able to provide you India ink. It's just so messy, but you can purchase your own little bit. But this is a really concentrated, strong kind of ink. and you don't need to dilute it, but you can go right in, and you can see that it's a warmer black than the tombow pen, but this could give you kind of a calligraphic kind of line, but it also allows you to create full values and get really nice even application of black. Once again, that is going to work much better and give you a better effect using a watercolor paper. See how it stays even and dark and consistent compared to this, okay? So that's optional for you. You will get better looking drawings with any sort of Indian ink, okay? So if you have questions, last thing, a siding stick. This is going to help you measure. You can use, this is just a wooden barbecue skewer. You can use your pencil as well as a siding stick. You could use a needle tool, just something long and straight. And once we get into siding in our next module, I'll show you how to use this. But this is an overview of all the materials you will need for your art class.